You're listening to East of the Rockies, the Michigan Students Softball Podcast on WCBN Sports.
Well, Mr. Burns had done it. The power plant had won it, with Roger Clemens clucking all the while. Mike Scioscia's tragic illness made us smile, while Wade Boggs lay unconscious on the barroom tile. We're talking softball, from Maine to San Diego, talking softball. Mattingly and Canseco, Ken Griffey's grotesquely swollen jaw, Steve Sachs and his running with the law. We're talking Homer, Ozzie and the Straw.
And here we go, episode 8 of East of the Rockies. Hard to believe this is the 8th episode. The Ocho.
Hey, who is this guy?
You know what?
Who's that voice?
Oh, I'm back. What up?
My name's Kevin Klein. On the other side of the glass, Morris Fabry. And who is that in the distance?
Special guest Jeremy Parks.
I don't like that 1 week of absence has demoted me to special guest.
Yeah, I think that's a precedent we should not set.
You're right, just a guest.
Because Morris will be headed to London tomorrow and will be missing next week's episode. It'll just be the Kevin JP Power Hour.
That has some flow. That has ring.
So
man.
episode 10, special guest Morris Fabry. How's it feel now?
I already feel marginalized.
You know what? There's one constant on this podcast, and it's Kev. It's me. Sorry, guys.
That's why you're the host.
Anyways, on this episode, we have some interviews for you. We will debate and see if some of the recent trends on the team are something or nothing. We'll give you a U of M softball fun fact of the day. But first, we'll talk about this past weekend and this midweek Central Michigan game. It was a 3-game sweep of Penn State over the weekend, plus a road win on Tuesday. So the Wolverines now sitting at 23-7-1. They have an upcoming...
And one? I wonder who did that.
I know. You know what? Whoever schedules Florida State's travel plans, that's who did that
Still
one.
salty.
Yeah. And they look to open up a weekend set against Northwestern, but I think the storyline, it's kind of twofold. It's been Megan Betza and her dominance, and the Bats are finally awake, and they seem to have some life in them. So I'll put it up to you guys. Which one do you think is, overtakes the other?
Well, it's, the Bats, we've been harping on it all year, the need for the Bats to come alive in order for this team to achieve their potential. But Betts has been in another stratosphere as a softball player recently. It seems like she's like averaged a hit a game against her over her past 5 or 6 starts. Her ERA down to 1.36 on the season. Already over 200 strikeouts on the year. And I'll bet half of those came over the course of her, of Kent State, Penn State, and Central Michigan. She's just absolutely unhittable, albeit against, not the best competition in the NCAA. But what she's doing right now, Michigan fans had better treasure it.
I'll tell you this much. Michigan going up against Penn State, the Bats had been cold. And then Coach Amanda Lahotek for the Penn State Nittany Lions came out in an interview with their student news publication last week.
Oh, boy.
And said, I'm trying to pull up the quote to get it exactly right. Here we go. Quote, their run totals. They're not putting up the run totals that they used to. Are they very good? Yes. Are they as scary as they used to be? No. This is probably the first year that I feel really good going into Michigan, so that's kind of a nice feeling. End quote. Trivia question. What was the run total between all 3 games between Michigan and Penn State this past weekend? 28-0 with 2 5-inning run rule victories in the last 2 of the 3 games set.
To be fair...
Talk blank, get hit.
To be fair, she wasn't wrong.
Why poke a beast that has kind of been dozing off of late?
She was in the wrong to, make
they
such
poked
comments
the bull
publicly, but
the bull that JP has been riding all season long.
To be fair, it was just 2 episodes ago where JP was talking about how we couldn't take Kent State wins for granted.
And you can't.
And I think that same vein would have applied to Penn State, prior to this offensive explosion. So she wasn't wrong, but that's not the kind of thing you want to say. I guess you want to show confidence in your team on a public stage, but if the Michigan team needed any motivation, they certainly would have gotten it there.
Just wait until we get into the Central Michigan talk, and I'll go right back to talking about not taking opponents for granted.
Go ahead, JP.
Yeah, we're talking about the week that was.
The week that was a good one against Penn State, and now the week that is, the Tuesday midweek game was just sputtering to the finish yet again against an inferior of inferior opponents in Central Michigan, going to Mount Pleasant on a Tuesday afternoon and only coming out with 2 runs is, I think, still emblematic of the fact that some of what Coach Amanda Lahotak said is true. I don't think it's right to go about spouting it in a public fora when you're about to get smacked the following weekend by a ton, 28-0.
Timeout, JP.
Yeah,
because
hold on.
I don't like timeouts.
Okay, because it's not like Central Michigan was throwing the ball girl out there. I mean, it was Rachel Knapp. Knapp on the year has a 1.66 ERA even after giving up those 2 runs. She's won 10 games. She got an All-MAC award the previous week. It's not like she's a scrub. I mean,
she had a complete game victory against a top 10 Arizona team last year.
Yeah, JP, I mean, she was very comparable to Betsa, and that's why you saw Betsa in a midweek game, and it was a duel. It wasn't, I don't think many people expected to come in there and beat them 10-0.
Again,
maybe except for you.
Last year, had this been a 2-0 game, I don't think we're blowing the same smoke about Knapp as we are now. You look at the schedule that a team like Central Michigan faces, it's not overly impressive. They've got 1 ranked game all season long against Texas A&M, and this is a Michigan team that should be and is in some ways leaps and bounds above a program like Central Michigan, but for some reason can only come out with 2 runs, and then we're going to go ahead and flaunt the pitcher for the Chippewas like they have the same skill set. They don't.
Listen, the thing, the numbers don't lie. That's one. Number 2 is, do you think Rachel Knapp has anything to do with the schedule that Central Michigan plays?
No, yes, but no? I also don't think you can flaunt her stats in the way that you do against the schedule that they've played.
Okay.
You can bring up a nice game against Arizona last season, and yes, I'm sure she's skilled, but a team like Michigan should be putting this team to bed in a run rule in every situation.
I think once you adjust for the way that the offense has played throughout the entire season this year, I think that it comes out as a totally acceptable performance, given that it seems like an offense that's still sort of rounding into form. That's not ideally where you would want it, but still to come out with a win over the likes of a Rachel Knapp is maybe not something you would like to take for granted, but it's still, not exactly going up against some chump.
Comparable Big Ten competition, Ohio State won 10-0 and 5-1 in an 8-inning affair. So the Big Ten, this is not a team that should be holding Michigan to 2 runs in any circumstance. That's my only point, and I don't think you can take it for granted.
Do you know who pitched in those games?
I'm going to look as we speak.
I really hope it's not
here.
Rachel Knapp. I'm fingers crossed.
Yeah, Knapp did throw against that Ohio State team in the 5-1 game. She threw 7 innings of 1-run ball and caved in the 8th.
And in the 10-0, this is terrible. Central Michigan uses baseball live stats instead of.
Well, let's just not worry about it then.
Well, you go ahead. I'm going to keep looking.
All right.
I'm just saying a 1.66 ERA is a 1.66 ERA no matter who you play. So Knapp, although probably her 1.66 ERA does not equal someone else's in a bigger conference that has, been tested all throughout the year, it's still a legitimate opponent, and I think Michigan, it was an important win even though the offense was a little cold.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you on this, Kev. And I understand being disappointed that it's not a game where Michigan goes out and run rules the best pitcher in the MAC potentially. But, adjusting expectations for what we've seen so far, I am not discomforted with Michigan's performance.
And you know what? I mean, we're talking a lot about Rachel Knapp. Let's talk about her counterpart in the game, Megan Betsa. 1 second here, boys. Another one bites the dust. Another one bites the dust. I mean, how many strikeouts is Betsa going to have this year? It's absolutely crazy, the numbers she's put up. Over 200 strikeouts already. She's on a better pace than she was last year, and I believe even her sophomore year when she had 333 strikeouts.
Remember that first pod?
I don't know.
Over under on strikeouts.
I think I took the under.
Yeah, you guys both took the under. I took the over. But even I didn't expect Tara Blanco to be as good as she's been in the circle. But this is the Betsa that I envisioned from the get-go.
My moment to gloat, Morris just had his. I finally got the box score from that first game for Central Michigan. It was Rachel Knapp, 2 2/3 innings, 5 hits, 6 runs, all of them earned. So There you go.
Yeah, it's not a good look.
There you have it. Not a good look that we took the under on the strikeouts either, but I'll take it. I mean, I'm not disappointed with it whatsoever. I called that game on Friday, and we were talking about the potential for Megan Betza to hit a career high at 17 strikeouts in that game. I think she ended with 14 or 15, but it was just unbelievable to call that game with you, Mo, and just wow. It was a lot.
Yeah.
All right, so JP is still treading cautiously. I think I'm back on the bull. I'm feeling very confident, especially with the weekend, upcoming against Northwestern, a sub-500 team. We'll get to them in just a minute. But Morris and I had the opportunity to talk to a few of the players. One of the players, Aiden Falk, has just had a great year so far with the bat, 11 doubles, tied for the team lead in RBIs with 25, and has kind of found a home in the cleanup spot. So without further ado, here is the interview with Aiden Falk.
All right. My name's Morris, by the way.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. So first of all, describe your recruitment a bit. You excelled in New York playing high school ball. Did any SEC schools come calling?
No, it was a lot of like ACC schools, just smaller D1 schools from New York. Not much out of state, except for there were smaller D1s of I think maybe North Dakota or a lot farther states and colleges.
Was Michigan the best school that recruited you then, would you say?
Yeah, I mean I would say so. There were a couple of there that were up there for me, but yeah, Michigan always kind of had my eye, and once I knew that they were interested in me, it was kind of like, all right, this is going to be the place for me.
Done deal.
Yeah.
Being in the Big Ten, do you have any special rivalry with Rutgers, with them being from, kind of out in that area?
No, but I do. It's easier for my parents to get there and like friends and family, even though like we're kind of closer. We're closer where I live to Michigan than we actually are to Rutgers, which is kind of weird.
Oh, wow.
So it's not as close as you would think.
Yeah, I didn't do my geography coming in. So you played a bit of catcher your freshman year, got the starting job for most of last year. How much experience behind the plate did you have coming into Michigan?
I was always my secondary position was catcher, so I played maybe like a handful of games here and there. It was never my primary position, so I knew how to do it, but I was never like, that's what I practice every single day. It was just kind of like, hey, if we needed a backup catcher, that was me.
And so all of a sudden you're in there as a sophomore catching Megan and Sarah
exactly.
for most of the season. Did you enjoy playing catcher?
Oh, I loved it. I thought it was so fun. It was just because it's just a different experience than playing first or anywhere else, and you're very involved, and you have to have a very good relationship with the pitcher, and it's just like a very different aspect of the game that you don't really think about, and that there's so much going on. And once you play the position, you realize it, and you got to give them a lot more credit than you would think. They're not just every other position player.
Yeah, for sure. Do you still, take reps behind the plate in practice?
I have not, no, but I will, I talk a lot with the catchers, and if I see something that, Sweet has worked with me before in my freshman year, Lauren Sweet, then I'll go and, talk to them and stuff like that. So it's just kind of, passing down the knowledge. If I see something, then I'll help them out, but I have not taken a rep back there.
All right, where do you take most of your reps? Because we saw you out in right field against Central.
Yeah, I take most of my reps at first, and then more recently I've been in the outfield a little bit here and there, but definitely first base.
All right, is there any position that you wouldn't be able to play?
Kind of any other infield position. I definitely can't pitch, that's for sure. But I played shortstop in high school for a couple games. It was a little rough, but it was kind of when they needed me there, so I played there. But in this level, I definitely could not play there. I belong at first base.
All right, so while your defensive spot has been subject to change over the years, the team's always enjoyed having your bat in the lineup. Has your approach at the plate evolved at all since coming here?
I think it's gotten simpler as I've gotten here. I would have too many things in my head as I was younger, and I guess as I matured, that has allowed me to simplify things and just have one idea when I go up to the plate, and it's been the same idea. I just see the back of the ball ever since the last year, and that's kind of been my way.
Or would you say that simplifying mindset has helped you in big moments? Because you've had a lot of success in big moments here.
Yeah, it definitely has helped me. It just it keeps me grounded, kind of. It doesn't let me think about anything else, and it just lets me be in the moment.
All right, so you've got a ton of power to the opposite field, I'd say, to a noteworthy degree. Do you find the defenses have adapted to that at all?
I wouldn't say so. I haven't really noticed it, but a lot of the pitchers tend to pitch like the lefties on our team outside, which is I like. But I don't necessarily see a shift or anything like that.
Okay, would you say you try to go to the opposite field more than the average hitter?
I think the way my swing is, it probably ends up there more than the average hitter. But I definitely don't try to go there. It's just kind of where the ball's pitched. I just try to go with it.
That's fair. So, Hutch loves to use pinch runners on the team.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like you and Tara are like the main victims of that.
Yeah.
Are you ever disappointed to be taken off the base pass?
No, because someone faster than me is going to get it done, and it's going to make it more likely for us to score a run. So that's kind of the only thing that goes through my head.
Yeah, it seems like a good mindset.
Yeah.
So we're big on nicknames on our broadcast. I know Lee always tweets out, airmail Aiden whenever you'll go along. Do you have any preferred nicknames, anything on the team other than that?
Not really. I mean, people call me Aid, and then Kenzie, who's like my backside this year, she calls me Aladdin sometimes. Just rolls off the tongue. But I don't really prefer a name over the other.
Aladdin's a good one. Where does that come from?
I think she was just like, I'm going to call you Aladdin today. I was like, okay.
Why not? How did you and Mackenzie get paired up as backsides?
Well, Hutch just kind of pairs the players up together. Just like the differences of class and personalities. And we've been a great backside group. We're very close-knit, and we play off of each other very well.
All right, good to hear. Finally, we're done with the interview. I got one question that I've asked everyone else that I've talked to. Is a hot dog a sandwich?
I guess so. It's in between two pieces of bread.
I agree. Some people don't see it that way, though.
Ooh, what's wrong with that?
I don't know.
Mia, do you think hot dog is a sandwich?
And that was Morris's interview with Aiden Falk. And it was interesting because you asked her about all the different places that she has played in the field this year. I mean, we saw her in right field on Tuesday, and I just thought her versatility actually is pretty impressive.
Yeah, there really are no egos on this team, it seems. And sure, that's the face that you sort of want to present to the media anyway. But, you can really see it how the players are, not attaching much value to being a consistent starter in one position, a consistent, job in one spot in the batting order. I think everybody's got a willingness to sacrifice, to play a little out of their comfort zone. And, you saw it with Aiden catching most of last season. You saw it with her playing right field. And, it's what you want to hear.
Yeah, and you know what? I mean, I think we were talking about it when we saw that lineup against Central Michigan, and we were going down it, and Falk was in the lineup, Vargas was in the lineup, who has been pretty hot as of late, and I think that is the most potent lineup that Michigan could put out, whether it be Subcheck or Alexander behind the plate, but that is, in my eyes, the ideal lineup.
Yep, and it got only 2 runs against a mediocre Rachel Knapp in the eye of Mr. Parks.
But it got 17 runs or something similar to Penn State.
Yeah. One thing that surprised me is that, I was kind of asking questions about her ability to drive the ball to the opposite field. I figured it had to be something conscious because it's something we observe time after time on our broadcasts, but, it might be something that, we noticed one time and emphasized more on our broadcast than is actually the case, because she didn't really give any indication that she felt herself to be an opposite field hitter primarily, even though that's kind of how I perceive her.
Jeremy, any thoughts?
I didn't have a chance to listen to the interview until just now, so I've been kind of processing, but I think it is good to hear about, one of those players that has been one of the few for Michigan so far this season that's been able to sustain some kind of success at the plate. And we go back and look at the question that Morris asked of Coach Carol Hutchins at the start of the year about whether Tara Blanco switching positions around in the field and batting would have some kind of effect on her play at the plate. And I think we can say with confidence at this point that it might have something to do with that switching around. So seeing Aiden Falk able to move about in the field defensively and still keep it up at the plate as well is good to see.
Yeah, I wish she didn't have the strikeout to walk ratio that she does. But that's just who she is, and that's the kind of bat that you want, a free swinger who's going to be willing to, maybe take a couple whiffs in order to have the power to drive in runs in the middle of the order.
Especially when you look at this lineup, which is very power hungry, and that kind of leads in. We mentioned her a little earlier, but Amanda Vargas, who I had the chance to sit down with, she has been really impressive in the batter's box as of late. 6 for her last 11. The game that comes to mind is when she was 2 for 3 with 4 RBIs, I believe against Bowling Green last week, and just asked her about what she's been doing up at the plate. So here is that interview.
So you're from California, a lot of good schools out there to play softball. What attracted you to Michigan? How'd that end up, you coming to Ann Arbor?
Yeah, I actually, I visited a couple schools, and when I came to Ann Arbor, I think it's one of those like cheesy feelings where you kind of just like fall in love with the school, the team, the players, and then the coaches too. Just everything was perfect, and I actually came on one of the warmest winters, so maybe that was the reason too, but I loved it.
So I'm sure the early season tournaments, you go back to California, I'm sure those are fun for you.
Yeah, it's awesome. My whole family comes out.
Yeah.
So like I have my grandparents get to come out, my aunts and uncles. It's a really good time, and then like I get to spend more time with my family too. So that's awesome.
So I have to ask, so where did the Panda nickname come from?
I think it's just Amanda Panda. It never really stuck freshman year, and I guess one of our managers, he started tweeting when I would go up to bat. He would add the little panda emoji, and then sophomore year it started to pick up a little bit more, and I feel like this year it's like my only nickname right now.
So then the next question is, your walk-up song has to be Panda, right?
Last year I made it Panda by Designer.
Yeah.
And it was fun, but the song I have this year, it's an Eminem song, but I actually really like it a lot more. It pumps me up a little bit more. But Panda was fun for a little bit.
Yeah, I won't go back to it though?
No, probably not.
All right. So you've been on a hot streak lately, 6 for your last 11, 3-game hitting streak over the weekend. What have you worked on to position yourself for that success? What has been working for you?
So I'm coming into a different role right now than I played the last 2 years, and it's obviously different for me, but it's something I've been trying to prepare for the past 2 years. I've just been focusing in practice on like really getting quality cuts, and then taking those to the game, not making it bigger than it is, and just keeping it with the same process.
Right. So 3 of those starts came in the 3-hole. Is there any, nerves coming into the 3-hole right into the lineup, or what?
It's different. Yeah. No. Obviously, there's a little bit of nerves, like batting third, but I've been preparing for this, and I've been preparing to be in the starting lineup. That was my main goal coming in. So I feel like I'm ready. I feel like I'm prepared for that. Mainly
being, a designated player, is there any trouble or any issues with only hitting and not being able to field in the bottom half of the inning or anything like that?
It has there's, with each role, there's like different downfalls and like positives about it. The positive I would say about it is that I get more time to think about what I did in my past at bat, and for some people that doesn't help them. But for me, I like to kind of process, what did I do wrong on that swing? What did I do right? What do I need to stick with? And so for me, it actually works pretty well.
Okay. Any preference on where you hit in the lineup, or is it just wherever your name is?
Me, honestly.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
You've had, over your past 3 years, a lot of clutch hits. The pinch hit home run against UCLA last year comes to mind. Do you have a certain favorite memory so far?
That one was a big one. It was really nice too because a lot of my family was there. It was in California, so that was fun. Honestly, a lot of my good memories don't really surround me making a clutch hit. It's more just like the ambiance. So when we made it to the World Series my freshman year, I think that was one of my better experiences.
Is there a certain person, player, coach that you've really taken a lot of tips from, or a lot of pieces of advice?
Well, honestly, all of the coaching staff, they all have different perspectives on how we're hitting and whatnot, and so Biggie will offer me just some tips before I go up to bat. Hutch is more of like when I'm warming up. She'll give me some tips on what I'm doing wrong, what I'm doing right, and then I like to talk to Bonnie. I actually just talked to her today too, just to kind of like get a feel of what I'm doing and watching film and everything, so that, I don't know, I feel like it's a little different perspective from everyone.
Fair enough. So one last question that we have a station-wide, podcast-wide debate, and would like your input. Is a hot dog a sandwich?
I don't think it is. No, that's definitely not a sandwich.
All right, fair enough. You're in the majority. Thank you very much for your
my
time.
interview with Amanda Vargas, and I think one question that we have been interested in is where that nickname, the Panda nickname, came from, and she just said it started to be tweeted out, and with the emoji, and it kind of just stuck.
Yeah, it makes sense. Amanda and Panda do rhyme. They got the emoji right there. I was kind of badgering Kevin before he went into the interview to make it way more panda-centric. Ask questions about Amanda's, favorite type of panda, whether she molded her diet to be more like a panda. The question about the designer song, I don't know if you would have come up with that by yourself, but
I did.
Okay, all right.
I'm taking credit for that.
But
one.
I was definitely in favor of that kind of stuff. So, maybe a bit disappointed at the fact that interview was good and professional as opposed to silly like I wanted it to be. But
thanks, Mo. Way to undermine me completely on the show.
You know what? Your interview.
I'll say this way. Hey, your interview skills, both of you, have vastly improved from the first time you went out there.
Thanks, JP, and that's why you're my favorite panel mate. Throughout,
have I been upgraded from special guest?
No. Well, that has to come from Morris and I. But you know what? You were definitely sinking below Mo, and then all of a sudden, shot right up.
No, it was a good interview. I would find it difficult personally, given my experience in baseball, to adapt to just, being kind of a microwave sort of player, coming off the bench and hitting and only doing that. Vargas did play shortstop in high school, and, she's never really going to get a chance to play there. Maybe next year, but as long as Abby's on this team, she's kind of going to take a back seat. So I'm glad she's getting the at-bats that she can, and I think there will be spots for her in pretty much any given game to at least pinch hit.
Yeah, absolutely. And I asked her because you hear sometimes, being a designated hitter in baseball or a designated player in softball, you're not fielding. So there's nothing to take your mind off of if you had a bad strikeout or, left the bases loaded or something like that. And she said, it had its, pros and cons. So it's good that she's able to, brush off some at bats if they don't end poorly or something like that. But you know what? She's been a spark plug in this lineup, and I've said I think this is the third podcast. I'm going to hashtag it. I'm going to put Team Vargas out there. Hashtag once again.
She can hit. Her average has popped up
about that action.
Yeah, she's been a welcome surprise this year. Maybe not the same level as a Canfield or a Peters, but very, very solid, and more than I would have expected.
Has really good pinch hitting ability too. But those were the two interviews for this week's pod. Aiden Falk and Amanda Vargas. We'll move on to the segments, and we'll start off with something or nothing. So I'll present you a situation here, Mo and JP, and I'll ask you, is it something or nothing? Everyone clear on the rules?
Kind of like a fair or foul.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah. Oh, way to put it in softball terms. I like that. All right. First one. Penn State's head coach comments.
I would put it down more as a nothing. As I said, I thought that they were maybe not justified, maybe not the smartest thing, but in the end, I don't think that she was too far off base to keep it softball related.
I would put it in the foul position only because I think that's just a dumb move from a coach that's about to go into a game. You haven't seen them yet so far this season. You're basing solely what you are saying off of paper. I think it's a silly move, and it just makes Amanda Lahotak look that much worse headed back to Happy Valley with a 28-0 spot put on her and a little bit of a target on her back from Michigan. Had they heard those words, which given I had not heard that until after the weekend was over and we got that quote out of the Penn State paper.
I think it's safe to, I prefer operating under the assumption that the players consume every bit of media related to softball in their off time, because it makes me hopeful that maybe they listen to this podcast. I don't know if I want them listening to this podcast, actually.
Speak for yourself. I want to be the University of Michigan softball podcast juggernaut. I want to be the University of Michigan softball podcast.
We'll be the Dak and Dunk of softball.
Yes.
Presented by WCBN Sports.
Set
of course.
Precedent.
They all have one thing in common. It's presented by WCBN Sports. All right, next. What about that lineup against Central Michigan? We've talked about it a little bit, but Courtney Richardson out of the lineup, Aiden Falk in the outfield, Amanda Vargas at DP, even with Megan Betza in the circle.
I like it. I like it a lot. I think you put more offensive production at the plate. I think you put a little bit more pop at the plate. I don't know. I've seen more production out of that than I have out of most things, so I'm a fan.
Yeah, I'll call that fair as well. I'll call it something, whichever iteration of the segment you want to go with. I don't think the outfield defense sacrifice from plugging Falk out in right field instead of a Courtney Richardson is necessarily that great. We haven't seen a lot of defensive heroics out of either Richardson or Hoganrod out in left, so I think that while Aiden Falk is not as fleet of foot as you'd like in the outfield, I think that the upgrade in the bat from a Richardson to a Vargas is more significant than the defensive loss.
Now, timeout. Are you seriously gonna knock Hoganrod again for that really tough play last week?
I'm just not necessarily. It's not just about that play, but we haven't seen much out of her so far. She's still just a freshman, and I think that if she were really, impressing on the defensive end in practice, she would have gotten more reps than she has so far. I trust Hutch that she's going to put the best lineup out there possible, and I like that she's been able to experiment this season.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing that we should talk about in the lineup is Christner's been in the 7 spot the last couple games.
Yeah, and it seemed to work against Central Michigan. I like it as a move to get her going. She was kind of struggling, dwindling down from her earlier heroics in the season. I don't know if it's something that will stick throughout the season. It's a shame that we couldn't ask Hutch about any of this. She wasn't in for the Wednesday interviews, so that's a segment we're missing out on too.
You know what?
We didn't have the violins queued up.
No,
for
hey, you
Mo
know
interviews
what?
Hutch.
Last week though, JP, you were not here, but we had a little bit of
Pharrell.
Oh no, I listened.
I know you did.
I heard it.
It was a different vibe.
I'll tell you what, actually, I listened to it before I went into my research presentation on Friday, which is why I was absent last week. I'd been in almost a year-long research project that I finally got to show off on Friday. But that was kind of like my pump-up music going in. The pod was getting me fired up.
That opening audio is just, unforgettable.
Got me really ready to talk about anti-clerical violence in the Spanish Civil War.
Make sure you don't take or listen to this pod before a drug test because it is clearly performance enhancing.
Wow.
That was a full circle. I like that
That could
one.
have gone any number of ways.
Jose Canseco is shedding a tear somewhere.
All right, next. Michigan's 9-game winning streak. JP's going to say nothing because Rachel Knapp, pitchers with sub-2 ERAs, not in the SEC, garbage.
Yeah. No, I think it's definitely something. It's fair. It's good. It's what you want to see for this team. I don't think that it signifies that they're deserving of anything more than their number 20 ranking in the country. But I think that the team is playing better softball. I think Betsa is now in her fully evolved stage as a pitcher. I think there is something substantial to what this team's been doing.
Fair or foul? I ride the chalk on this one. I think it is neutral in that sense. I think it is good. I think it's exactly where this team should be. I will give them praise for that, but I think this is also a team that needs to continue to go all the way down the line and continue to run train on the Big Ten after a strong opening weekend. So I'll give them some ups for that, but I find it hard to go completely glowing in awe of a 2-0 victory over Central still.
Fair enough. I will say it's something. I'm encouraged by the 9-game winning streak. I am back on the bull. Last one. Tara Blanco's recent power and how she's currently tied for the team lead in RBIs with Aiden Falk at 25.
That's fair. That's something. Tara Blanco is totally 100% back, ready to go back into that cleanup spot whenever Hutch is willing to trust her with those reins. I think she's back to being one of the best hitters in this lineup. I am bullish about Blanco.
This one's tough because
I
want
the ball
to
hard. She's been.
I
hitting the ball
want to
hard.
have faith, but
It's been good contact.
And I still give her the benefit of the doubt in a lot of ways for the fact that she hasn't seen much at the plate in terms of hittable stuff compared to where she was in the lineup last year. So for that reason, I'll go fair. I'll say that I think the plate performance is improving. I don't think it's going to be anywhere near what I expected it to be at the start of the season, so maybe I should adjust my expectations at this point.
Yes, I think this far in the season, she probably won't be all the way back up to 411, JP.
Yeah. I think she'll get well above 300 by season's end with double-digit homers. I think she's going to go off these next few weeks.
Hot take. You've heard it here first. All right, that'll do it for
It's her birthday week, man. She turned, I don't know what she turned, but she had her birthday yesterday.
I know. We heard
the team singing it.
Yep.
They weren't very good.
It was.
Though I can't really talk.
I was going to say, Mo, you just, I'm going to call your bluff. So you sing happy birthday right now and we'll judge you.
No.
All right.
I called your bluff. Get out of here, Kev. No one wants to do that.
That was a lot of bluff calling, I will say. All right, that'll do it for something or nothing. We'll move on to the over-under. And this one, was interesting to me because Megan Betza threw her second no-hitter in 9 days over the weekend against Penn State. Granted, it was a 5-inning no-hitter, but a no-hitter's a no-hitter. So over under a half more Megan Betza no-hitters this year.
I'm going over. I think she's got 2 more in her, at least.
2 more?
Yes. I think that Michigan's going to be able to get a couple run rules. The Big Ten is not, Wisconsin's playing better than they have been in conference.
Top 25.
It's not necessarily a down year for the conference, but there are a lot of down teams to beat up on. She's going to have a lot of opportunities to record a no-no, and she's just clicking in such high gear. Eventually, she's going to regress and, not shut out everybody she faces, but I think she's got a couple more no-nos in her.
I want a really quick response to this question. What are you doing on Friday, April 14th? You're watching a Megan Betza no-hitter in College Park, Maryland. What are you doing on Friday, May 5th? You're watching a Megan Betza no-hitter in Piscataway, New Jersey. What are you doing Sunday, May 7th? You're watching a Megan Betza no-hitter in Piscataway, New Jersey.
Wait, she's getting
Round
2
2.
in the same series?
Fence the Garden.
Poor Rutgers.
I feel bad. I mean, even on
That
the
is over, and it's not even funny.
I felt bad associating Aiden Falk with Rutgers erroneously, but
yeah, but you know what she said? She lives closer to Michigan than Rutgers, so
I
that's
don't know
fine.
my geography.
I mean, JP, did you really have to throw Rutgers under the bus on a softball podcast? Come on,
straight terrible.
It's a softball podcast, but we got hardball analysis.
Now
this might come back. This might come back to bite me like Amanda Lahotak, but I'd call it Lahotaki of me, but.
Oh, that was bad.
I'm going for it.
That was bad.
That was good.
You're seeing 3 more of them.
I'm glad to have you back, JP.
All right.
The bull is riding again.
I mean, JP definitely adds some flavor to this podcast.
I see it as like an off-color Bill Raftery. That's how I'd categorize color commentary. Just like folksy to an absurd degree, but it works most of the time.
Double order.
All right.
Love some Bill Raftery.
Last over under 60, the team leader in RBIs this year. So to put it in perspective, we're about halfway through the season, maybe a little more than halfway. Falk and Blanco in the lead with 25. Last year, 2 players had more than 60. That was Romero and Blanco. So over under 60 for the team lead in RBIs.
I'm under, and I'm comfortably under here. I think it falls somewhere in the low 50s.
Yeah, I think I'm under as well. I have a lot of faith in Tara Blanco's ability to be the number 1 RBI player at the end of the year, especially if she sees more opportunities back a little higher in the order. But at the same time, I don't think the offense around her is going to give enough opportunities. I don't think there'll be enough runners on base. I don't think Michigan's going to be putting up a bunch of double-digit games. So I also will go with the under.
Hot take. You've heard it here first. Once again, over 60. I'm calling it. Aiden Falk.
For Aiden Falk, okay.
That's a bold one. I like it. She's seeing the ball well. She's hit. Every other hit is an extra baser recently.
I mean, it's crazy. She has 11 doubles on the year, 2 home runs, and a triple out of 27 hits. So if my math is correct,
over half have gone for extra bases.
Yes, Mo's assertion is correct. That'll do it for over under. I want to give everyone a fun fact about Michigan softball today. I found this one particularly fun, in my opinion. I'll throw it up to you guys, see if you think it's fun as well. Every Wolverine who has seen at least 2 plate appearances has registered at least 2 RBIs this year.
Yeah, that's pretty fun. Every player's gotten their chance to break out at some point or another. Have their own day in the sun.
I mean, I think probably 2 of those hit the mark during that Penn State whomping.
Yeah.
I'm thinking Uden's double, that scored at least 2, and I think Gonzalez might have gotten a hit too.
Wow. Yeah, that really does encompass like a lot of players on the team too.
The only ones that Scavars, who's only had 1 at bat, who was 1 for 1. Shout out to her for getting her first collegiate hit in her first collegiate at bat.
And Betza's only got 1 at bat.
Betza has an at bat.
Nikki Wald only 1 at bat.
Right.
Unfortunately, they're not getting the RBI.
I was gonna say Betza definitely probably won't get that 2 plate appearance, and Wald might. But I thought that was there's some balance
for sure.
JP, any thoughts on that?
No, I'm good. Keep going.
Okay, thanks. All right. Hey, you know what? We talked about it. 3-game set upcoming against Northwestern. Northwestern going to come into Alumni Field there at 13-16 after I'll try to put it kindly, a really bad start this season. They started off 1-10. They won their first one, and then they went on a chilly 10-game losing streak where they lost to Baylor, Arizona, Florida State twice, Pitt twice, Georgia, Washington, a bunch of ranked teams.
No, Kev. No. Close game against number 21 Baylor, 7-6 in extra innings. Close games against Florida State, 3-2.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Pittsburgh, 2-1.
My
both
bad.
ranked opponents. Close game against 11 Georgia, 2-0. These are not close game against Cal, 3-2. Another ranked opponent.
I should have read Northwestern's record as wins, losses, and close losses. That was my bad. I apologize.
I think it's indicative of the team that Michigan is also being a good team with some close losses against some good competition. Again,
completely different
opponent overlooked, Kev. I'm sitting on this side of the glass. I feel like you're looking through to the other side of the wall here in the studio.
This needs to be a sweep. This needs to be a sweep.
Of course it does.
Yeah, we took it for granted last year, though. I remember JP and I were on the game, the 13-12 game, where it looked like they were comfortably on their way to a run rule. Northwestern came back, won that one. They were up 13-9 going into the seventh.
Megan Betza started that and got shelled, didn't she?
Yeah, she did. She was cruising. She got shelled. Michigan scored 3 in the bottom of the seventh, had bases loaded, 1 out, and a grounded into a double play. I think it was Canfield to end it. But that was a great game, and it was such a shock, especially to have my color commentator leave midway through.
What was I doing that night?
Something.
I can't.
Something not important.
I think I had a flight or something. Yeah. But anyways, I remember seeing it. Yeah, I think it was a flight, and I was in the airport, and I remember seeing the final, thinking that they came back and made it at least close. But every single year, it seems like Michigan drops a game or two to some unsuspecting Big Ten opponents. Last year, Northwestern. 2 years ago, I remember Iowa in a weekend doubleheader. So I don't know. Again, no opponent overlooked is the motto of the Bull. I think Northwestern brings a decent amount of talent to this game, and I think that Michigan is going to have to take it exactly as that in stride.
I think we've seen that Michigan is not a lock to win against opposing aces, no matter what the quality of those aces are. We saw Ronnie Ladinas come in and pitch
Rachel
impressively
Knapp
against the Wolverines. Yeah, Rachel Knapp kept it competitive. And Kaylee Weingartner, a sophomore for the Northwestern Wildcats, has been very solid as of late. Got off to a rough start to the season. I think a little rusty after recovering from an injury, but she's got a 1.35 ERA over her last 8 appearances, and that includes outings against Washington and Florida. Northwestern is coming off of a series where they beat Wisconsin, who is a nationally ranked team right now.
There you go.
Marissa Panko, their shortstop, hitting over 500 in Northwestern's last 12 games. So they've got some players. They've got an ace. They've got a chance. But with Betza in the circle, it's going to be rough.
Yeah, it's unique for Northwestern, too. They bring a bullpen that has 4 arms that are good to go. All 4 of the pitchers in that rotation have thrown over 40 innings this season. It's been very evenly spread out. So you look at Weingartner, who is good, but also has pitched the fewest innings of anybody out of that lineup, has received limited run support. She has a 2.10 ERA, but she's only 3-2 in the win-loss column. You look at a hitter like Anna Peterson, who's only hitting 262, but brings some power to the plate with 4 home runs on the season.
3 of those in her last 3 games.
Right, and a Megan Betza, who's susceptible to giving up the occasional long ball here and there. So I don't think, again, this is a team that can be so quickly, thrown off to the side.
Oh, they are. I will.
3-0.
You claim to ride the bull, but you...
How many run rules, Kev?
2.
2 run rules.
Hey, you know what? The thing is with Northwestern is they run a lot. You mentioned Peterson, who has 4 of the home runs that Northwestern has. The rest of the team only has 5. They run a ton, 46 stolen bases, so extra pressure on Subject and Alexander, whoever it may be behind the plate, so watch out for that one. I predicted 3-0, 2 run rules. What about you guys?
I also see it as a 3-0 sweep for the Wolverines. I think there's going to be one game that'll be like a 1 or 2 run affair. Maybe have that one be on Friday. Blanco's going to get plenty of run support on Saturday because I guess that's just how the team operates. And then Sunday, Betts is back, and Michigan's going to blow the doors off the Wildcats.
It's a 3-0 weekend, and I say the phrase "no opponent overlooked" to keep you grounded, Kev, because your head gets into the stars sometimes.
That's false. I'm very up and down.
And you know what? Now let me finish. Let me finish.
Okay. All right.
You know who else likes to get their head in the stars?
Oh, is it Morris?
Me.
Oh, it's JP. Okay.
It's a 3-0 weekend with 3 run rule wins for the Wolverines.
Oh my gosh.
What a turn.
I can see Orion's belt from up here.
Nice.
Oh boy, we gotta end this soon.
It's the Bull.
Anyways, Michigan's second weekend in Big Ten Conference play. Looking around at the rest of the Big Ten, Minnesota, Michigan, Ohio State, Purdue, and Illinois all went 3-0 to open up their weekend.
Nobody else matters except Minnesota.
Wisconsin will be a fun series.
Wisconsin's top 25 now. I mean, granted, they dropped 1-2 Northwestern.
They beat up on a bunch of crap teams in non-conference, but they still beat up
wins
on
or
them.
wins. I mean, at the end of the day, how much say in the schedule do any players on Wisconsin have?
Yeah, exactly. None. And we saw Florida lose to Maryland, who's a doormat this season, so it's not that difficult even for the best teams to have an off day. So
Maryland beat Florida. Never forget that. The one thing that they did all season was beat Florida.
Yes, they beat Florida, but
and that jackass Tim Walton.
I mean that's
shoving kids.
Yeah,
that's something for the Auburn weekly softball podcast, not ours.
I still have a seething dislike of that Florida softball program.
I want to see Michigan give it to them later on.
In the Women's College World Series, maybe even in the championship game. Depends on how high my head wants to go today. No opponent overlooked.
Well, we're in Ann Arbor, so you'll have an opportunity. Never mind. Go on.
Mo was about to make a hash bash joke.
Oh, yeah, I guess that is coming up. I'll be out of town, so I don't know anything about that.
You know what? I don't think any of us know anything about that.
For sure.
A celebration of civil liberties. We'll leave it at that.
A lot of free speech going on that weekend, I'll tell you that much.
Symbolic speech, too.
Yeah,
we're all about symbolic speech. And
as defined by the Supreme Court.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right.
That took a turn.
Jeez, how did that even happen?
Political commentary segment of the show.
Exactly.
Where's the gavel noise?
I mean, I don't have a sound effect for that one.
I spend a lot of time on the internet, so my mind jumps pretty quickly to jokes about weed.
Final thoughts?
I enjoy seeing the team play the way they have been. And Megan Betza is something that we should really treasure the same way we treasured Sierra Romero.
Something that I haven't gotten in this show yet that I've been waiting for is my parents came to the first ever softball game this past weekend. It was a really good experience, so I was glad to have them in tow. And they met Morris.
Yeah.
It was kind of like
they were good
showing
people.
off a significant other to the family. They've heard Morris come through the speakers of our home so many times, and they finally got an opportunity to shake hands with the one and only.
For some reason, I really took it the other way. I thought you were showing your parents off to Morris.
No, I was showing Mo off to them.
Okay, all right. Interesting. All
the
right.
gem that he is.
Yes.
And I thought that was special. I wanted to throw that out there.
It was.
All right.
It was cute. My parents, when we got in the car, my mom defines Mo as, quote, a really cute guy.
Oh, well, that's good to know.
That's on the air now. That's great.
So look out.
Look out here.
Mo's charming.
Cute seems to be a buzzword in my interviews, too.
Everybody surrounding softball
usually
thinks
referring to nicknames.
This whole team is cute.
Slap Sisters, cute.
Mm-hmm.
Peach and the Beach.
Cute.
Mo.
Cute.
Evidently.
Kev.
Cute.
Yeah. It beats a lot
Face
of
for radio,
alternatives.
though, that's for sure.
We all got faces for radio.
Faces
Let's
for
face
radio
it.
and podcasts. That's
Yep.
what I'm living with.
Yep.
All right. Are we closing with one thing we learned, one thing we want to know?
As always.
All right.
All right, I'll start going off the top. One thing I learned is that JP is incredibly flexible with his hypocrisy. He's got to keep Kevin grounded, but doesn't have to do the same for himself. He'll still
No
go
opponent overlooked.
high pie in the sky. One thing I want to learn is I want to follow Rachel Knapp throughout the season, see how she does against competition the rest of the way.
One thing I learned...
Just to rub it in your face, JP.
Yeah, okay. One thing I learned is that Northwestern has played a lot of close games against good opponents this season, so it'll be an interesting series here in Ann Arbor. One thing that I still want to know is when we're actually going to have a guest on this show, because we do a lot of interviews, but the pod description is advertised as Morris Fabry, Kevin Klein, Jeremy Parks, and assorted guests. So let's work on next week since we don't have Mo. Let's try and get a guest in here.
Who's the ideal guest, JP?
I don't know.
I want the Penn State head coach right here, or
we could have her
Rachel
call in.
Knapp.
You know, I think we've got an in with the producer of the Dak and Dunk pod.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I hear that's produced by WCBN as
Leo
well.
Blavin.
Blavin.
That was hilarious.
Is that how you pronounce it? Just whatever you want to call me.
Yeah. Hilarious.
All right. One thing I learned is that JP does not believe in statistics.
I do.
I mean,
Just in a different way.
1.66 ERA, but whatever. One thing I want to know is, I don't know what I want to know.
That's what you want to know. You want to know what you want to know.
You know what? Once I learn something this weekend or know something this weekend, that's what I wanted to know. It'll come to me. All right.
5 steps ahead.
Weekend series against Northwestern. We will have all that coverage for you on WCBN Sports.org. On
Twitter at WCBN Sports.
For all your weekend softball action.
Live across the interwebs if you get a chance as well. Catch our baseball broadcasts on WCBNsports.org as well. Across the Wilpon Complex on another diamond at The Fish.
And JP, say that email address where you can email us at.
EOTRpod@gmail.com.
Damn, that's an easy email to remember if I've ever heard one. All right.
You've got mail. How close does that sound to the OG?
Not close at all.
Damn.
That'll about do it for us here. JP makes his return. For Jeremy Parks, Morris Fabry, I'm Kevin Klein, leaving you with a good night and a go blue. And I'm just in the mood for some Florida Georgia line. I don't know.
Go Leafs.
Boombox, baby, about to get a little boondock. Let's go.